I can walk it in two ways, kind of walk it through the demo. And from a buyer perspective, what I was thinking of doing is kind of slowing it down and walking that interaction from kind of more of a screen, but I could actually do how that process works as well from a demo. So let's walk from a buyer's perspective because we just went through how somebody lists the product, right?
Yeah.
So now we're going to go over how somebody purchases it. So now they're looking at the basically, the deal listing. They're looking at the terms. Main thing is the quantity on hand, basically the price as well as the terms that you're dealing with, right? And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, you got all the other complementary information that people can look at. And now here's the inventory calculator, which you could do partial bidding by calculating how much you want to do. It'll give you exactly in pallet's position. Now, this is how you kind of bid. You could decide on a partial amount if you want, say, 5 containers out of the listing. You could actually, say I'm interested in 5 containers. If you have any other kind of requirements like delivery and all that, which I'll cover a little bit in a slower pace, how that works. But this is showing you that chat interface we talked about that is unique to our platform, right? You could go out there and update the offer anytime you want. It looks like a chat format. People make an offer. The buyers and sellers see this type of chat environment. They could look at the contracts. They could discuss with each other. We moderate it. So if there is any discussion on the terms update, on a system message, the terms get updated. If there's an agreement, I'll slow this process down on another slide a little bit where you can see it. But on a fast way, when you're communicating, the idea is terms get updated, people accept offers, people can view those offers, what they got accepted, and a contract gets basically generated out of that, right? And the way you generate the contract is basically you have the entity name and the address for the legal binding piece of it. As soon as you kind of enter that information, it generates a contract. To give you an idea, you could just download that contract, and we'll just walk over those things at a little slower pace because I know your audience would be interested in how do you purchase up the platform, and I'll walk through that. So as you see, the contract in that sense. So now let's walk through in a slower motion for a buyer perspective, right? And I'll walk through with some icons in there so people can see exactly. So when you're searching from a buyer perspective, what's available on inventory, you could search by panels, batteries, inverters. And in a panel, if you decide to pick the panel, you'll see the type of panel you can search by, the wattage you can filter by, the color, also the tier group they belong to, and also the brands, right? And here is basically the listing that you see where there's a summary level, and it gives you the part number, the minimum quantity, and the quantity on hand that's available, as well as the shipping time, which is the Incoterms, right? Now, here is really the new thing for the industry, which is related to price per watt, right? Concept that doesn't exist in the industry that you can negotiate because all the projects are planned that way. People are negotiating that way. The industry is selling that way. It's about time that people can buy that way, right? And once they look at the details by clicking on that, they can get to the more of the details, which is, has the same, the critical thing is the quantity on hand, because for a buyer, the important thing is the price, quantity on hand, and the terms, right?
Yeah.
And then we have this little calculator that says if you want to transfer between watts and quantity, figure out how many panels go in a pallet and a container. You can easily look that up if you want to do partial bidding. It's a helper tool.
Sure.
And then you have the specifications that you look in the details, which I was going over earlier. That is automatically loaded because all the product sheets we have imported for all the products out there, right? So it really makes it helpful for people if you wanted to compare against another product, look at it. All that is available, even from a listing perspective, from a buying perspective. The details are helpful. So let's look at the terms when you click on it on a listing, and this terms basically list out the product and the quantity on hand. That is in total. But if you decide to bid partially, that would change for you because you're dealing with the partial quantity. And the Incoterms are there that people define, and the connector type, the payment type, all that is in there, right? That you're negotiating. So now let's walk through kind of the process of the bidding. So when somebody hits that inquire or make offer button on the listing, you see this type of screen, from a buyer perspective. Now, what you have is you have the ability to send an inquiry and just start chatting because you may want to discuss maybe to include the delivery, or maybe you want to have some special terms from a payment perspective. You may want to iron that out before you actually give an offer. So you gives the ability to just inquire, or you could just send an offer or ask for a partial quantity. It lets you know from a desired perspective, minimum quantity. In this case, the seller is expecting at least one pallet bid, right? And some of them are listed at a panel level, some are at a container level. So depends what you're shopping for. At least you're aware of it from a buyer perspective, what's the minimum person can sell. And based on that, you could buy on a pallet, panel, container level, and that's the drop down, and you could put your, desired quantity. All right. And then you could say a price. You don't have to say a price because you may want to negotiate first. So those are optional. But if you have a price in mind, you could submit that, and then you could change. In this case, we're showing the original listing was what, 30% down and 70% on delivery. And this buyer says, I want to maybe pay 20% down, a little bit less. And can you do 80% on delivery? And makes that request and sends the offer. As soon as you make that offer, you go into this chat-like interface, which is the new to the industry and it's new to any auction site. So, this is the first, and we have patented this as well. So, that is our unique offering to be able to negotiate, have a moderated platform that allows negotiation between two parties and generates two independent contracts as well. So this is a unique offering actually in the whole technology space. So it doesn't even have to be solar. It is the fact that this concept is very new, and I think people so far that have been buying off our platform have been really appreciative of it because their interaction is fairly quick. They can discuss a lot of these things that are unavailable that, from a coding perspective takes time. People don't know the inventory. They have the live inventory now. They can actually discuss various terms very quickly with the supplier and know the answer, right? I'll pause a little bit, Kareem, if you wanted to jump in because I see
this is really innovative and very, very smart. I know something like this exists in the banking industry where certain traders' conversations are recorded and becomes a record of transaction, essentially, in treasury and trading rooms of major financial institutions. But yeah, very innovative and new for an industry like ours. Very impressive. Thank you for showing, the amazing depth of thought that you put into this product, this trading platform, really for the industry. Very, very impressive, and how amazing and obviously natural also at the same time that is coming out of a team that has been engaged in this brokering of moving product activity for probably a decade plus at this point, I'm assuming, with all the yellow light and its ecosystem around of the brokerage arm. And I'm assuming your brokerage team, that's focused on the procurement activities and trading activities, are starting to use this with their counterparts in the industry as well. And it sounds like you guys have secured a huge amount of inventory already.
So
I'm really looking forward
exactly
to
right. It's a kind of like very complementary services, right? So whatever we have in inventory, or at least from a supplier's perspective, manufacturers, they could list on there. People have access to that. Now, if people find that there is something missing, because we've been doing this business, we have relationship with so many parties from distributors to manufacturers, we can always get things. So now today, like I said, when our business grew, the procurement side of it, which is the offline businesses, grew so much that we're serving utility companies today with 250, megawatt projects today, right? So, we have grown that arm where we provide logistic capabilities as well as warehousing capabilities for people that need that, so that arm is complementary to this as well, because as we are providing services here, we tap into that arm to help out, close these transactions that people are even negotiating online.
Very, very impressive. I think we've covered the basics of the platform really in a good level of depth, and thank you very much for this wealth of information and insight you shared with us in regards to this new innovative trading platform for the industry, Kadir.